you mean to tell me that your son was diagnosed with cancer, and not only is he cured, but you started a foundation to provide funding for the research that helped him to get cured? Is that what you're telling me?
100%. I mean, God is good, right? So absolutely.
Not only was he diagnosed initially and you guys went into like, whoa mode, like how, okay, where are we going to go? And you realized that actually the best kind of research was in your backyard. Is that right?
Absolutely. So shortly after my son was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, we were honestly ready to pack up and go wherever we needed to. And whether that was New York, Nashville, like we didn't care. We didn't care. Wherever we needed to go, we would. And so, a quick Google search for number one oncologist for neuroblastoma, and you quickly find out that she's right here in Charleston, South Carolina, in the same hospital that we're in. So that was a miracle in itself. And she's loved on Bodie ever since he was diagnosed and still taking care of him today.
Yeah, I think it's such an amazing thing. And then you went through that whole journey, and then you used the vehicle of real estate as a mechanism, with your brokerage and things of that nature for starting an actual foundation. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we started out, my son was cured in 2018, so I'll say that. So yes. We started our own brokerage in 2020, and shortly thereafter, we decided to start doing like raffles and just little donations as a way of kind of saying like, thank you back to Dr. Krivecka for her research lab. And, just with like clients at client events, we'd have like a raffle for gift cards and stuff like that. And we were like, man, like we just feel like we could do so much more. And clients were reaching out, like handing us checks, like how can we donate to your cause? And I'm like, well, like I can't really take your money as a brokerage, like that's kind of illegal. So, we just knew, and everything pointed us toward starting our own foundation. So we did that in August of 2021, and we started it called the McConnell Foundation.
It's so awesome. And then did you have any idea what you were doing when you did that?
No, nothing at all. Like, I feel like I still don't. No, so we had our very first gala in June of 2022 or 2020. Yeah, 2022. And like, just to tell you the magnitude of how little I knew what I was doing, I walk into the gala like 15 minutes till it was going to start. Everyone's like getting there, getting ready. And the bartenders walk up to me and they're like, Jen, where are all the glasses? Like the bar glasses, water glasses, like we can't find any of them. And I'm like, oh, I definitely forgot to order them. So luckily I had an amazing event company that we work with, and they brought glasses within like 10 minutes. So like there was very little people knew that actually happened. But like I literally knew nothing. Like I've never planned anything on this magnitude. We had 140 people at our gala. Auction items, live auction, silent auction. We had Seth G, who's like a live violinist. We had Chris Dodson, live musician. We had an MC. We had auctioneer. Like it's a big event, right? And we had like 2 games, Prosecco Playground. We had Hammerschlagen. Like it was a big event, and I certainly had no idea what I was doing. But I'll tell you what, we raised almost $45,000 our first year. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I feel like it's just like upward from here now.
Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing, because I'm imagining that somebody might have like a heart to do something like that. And they may tell themselves a story like, well, I got to learn and figure it out. But it seems like you just were catapulted into it, not only based on your experience, but then based on clients and, kind of centers of influence or people that wanting to contribute and to help. Right now, I'm wondering though, because there's like 2 sides of that, right? So there's like a profit and a nonprofit like component. So can you talk a little bit about those 2 and how they're different?
Sure. So about 2 years ago, when we started our brokerage, we decided to set aside a portion of every commission that we make to go to pediatric cancer research at MUSC, which is my son's oncologist research lab. So we started doing that. And then we felt like, well, you know what, like we can do so much more outside of just what we do. Like we're a small boutique brokerage. Like I know that we can do more. Well, a nonprofit's the best way to be able to do that because there's so many people behind us. Like Charleston's a small city, and everyone here is just so giving and wants to be involved, and clients want to be involved, and friends. And like, that's just the best way that I know that we can just continue to raise money. And of course, like I always have high goals. So like we started out with like $25,000, 3 years ago. Then I doubled it to 50. And then like last year we did like 65. So like I'm always wanting to do more, but as a small small brokerage, I can't always double that. But I know as a foundation and as we grow and raise awareness in the city and about all the things that Dr. Kveka is doing with research, like I know that we can grow that easily. So, this year our goal is to do $75,000 at our gala for the nonprofit. And then our goal for McConnell Real Estate Partners, my brokerage, is to do $65,000. So that would be really cool. So right now we're like just shy of $190,000 that we've donated to pediatric cancer research at MUSC in 3 years.
That's a beautiful thing. And it goes directly to the research that helped cure your son.
Absolutely. Yep. So my son's oncologist has one of the only pediatric cancer research labs in South Carolina. There's 2 total, and she has one of those. And she's the only one here in Charleston.
Yeah. And I have to imagine that's like an interesting dynamic where someone who you didn't know previously, who you didn't have any kind of meaningful relationship previously, is responsible for helping somebody that you love so much in a very difficult time, right? So it makes total sense to me as to why you would want to help her in any way that you possibly can, not only to help her, but also to help all of the families that could be helped as a result of contributing to her research.
Absolutely.
Not only did the physician make a difference for you guys, but now you're making a difference at kind of scale, right? Helping as many people as you possibly can. Now, I guess for you, from a vision perspective, right? Because I know you mentioned you have big goals, and I love that. That this year, it sounds like the goal is like 150,000 to raise. Is that right? Like cumulatively between the brokerage and the other side. So have you done like kind of 5, 10 like years out? Like, do you see this being like a whole separate, large organization that stands next to you in the brokerage business?
I mean, I expect it to be its own entity for sure. And I mean, my goal, like I envision it, and I see myself, we always do check donations, of course, whenever you give a check to the hospital. And I envision that one day that's going to say $1 million, like from one event or 1 year, whatever it is. Like, I just know that that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's awesome. And a couple of things come up for me is like, the first one is like you found something. I guess I'm curious, like when you first got into real estate, like what was the main motivator, the main goal and objective when you first, got your real estate license?
First got into real estate, I was actually 20 years old, and I was 19 years old, and I was a junior in college. So I don't think I really knew kind of what I wanted. I knew that I was in new construction, and I absolutely loved it. I needed an internship, and I walked right into a builder, didn't know if they were hiring, didn't care, but I was like, I'm going to work here. And they're like, well, we don't have a position. I'm like, well, we're going to make one. And like, I just forced my way in. Like, I just don't take no for an answer. So that's really how I started. And I just knew that that was going to be my foundation for how I would find success. And I don't think I knew what success was at the time. And success to me is to be able to give back. Like, now I'm successful because I'm able to do so much for so many others. Like, that's what's the cool thing about being the position that I'm in and the level that I'm at, is that I'm able to do so much for others. And really, I think what's also really cool is like doing podcasts like this. Like, I get reached out by a lot of agents all over, and they're like, how can we get started? What can we do? And I'm like, you don't have to do something really grand. Like, a lot of agents that I've talked to, we'll follow up with each other, and they're like, yeah, what I decided to do was just like let my clients pick maybe a nonprofit that they want to donate to, because I don't really have anything that I'm really like attached to. I'm like, that's a great idea. And then, there's some that'll pick like 3 charities that are important to them, and then they'll let their agents or their clients choose which charity that they want the money to go to. So like, it's cool that I'm seeing the impact, not just, of course, like with the research that we're helping fund, but like with other agents, and that it's really making a difference. Like, to me, that's just the coolest thing.
And the reason why I asked you is that my experience is like, I'll do way more for other people than I will myself. I think that's the majority of us. Yeah. So you found what is the driving force and the purpose and the mission, which is like, as the business gets bigger, then I'm able to serve and help more people. Right. And it's not solely to like, just to kind of, enrich yourself, which I think is an awesome thing. And that's what's driving you. And that's why you have so much energy. And that's why you go at it like a million miles a minute. Now, you brought up an interesting point about like being a form of marketing. And I think a lot of agents think about it that way. I think they come with like a good kind of heart, like wanting to contribute in some capacity. But it's like kind of like Tom's, where if you buy like, one Tom, we give away one. It's like a form of marketing. Like, we give away a pair of shoes for every shoes that you buy. And I think in your instance, the difference is is that I don't think that that's important to you at all. Like, I think the reason why you're doing this is because you truly want to promote and continue research that saved a loved one's life.
Absolutely. And I mean, just to raise awareness, if nothing else, like even
Yeah.
if one person who listens to this podcast is like, wow, like there's an awesome research lab in Charleston, South Carolina, like, all right, job done. Like that's good enough. Right. So raising awareness is everything for us. But I mean, it took some time. Like we had to really talk it through with like mentors and business coaches, and like, it's hard to say like, oh, I'm very philanthropic. Like that's not something people want to talk about. Like I'm like, I'm going to do this regardless. Like I don't need recognition for it. But then when you look at it, like, well, you're doing so much, but like, do you realize how much you can do if other people join you? And I'm like, yeah. that clicks for me. Like that.
Then it's like the more I put myself out there, the more attention I get, I actually can serve and expand more.
Yep.
Right. What would you suggest to an agent who has a heart and wants to do something like this? Because I know there's two routes you can go. One is what you were initially describing that other agents might do, which is to find an operational partner, meaning like somebody who's already has an organization and you just provide them with capital and they do what they do. The second is what you've done, which is requires a lot more time, energy, effort, and resources, which is to actually have an organization. And in that organization, there's probably staff and it's like a whole thing, right?
Right.
Which would you propose or suggest, or what would be your recommendations to agents that are even considering it?
I think that when people have approached me, there's a very clear path. Like people aren't like, should I do a nonprofit? Should I just donate proceeds? And I mean, there's usually like, I'm going to start a foundation, or I'm just going to donate to nonprofits. I think people just have that in their hearts. Like you just kind of know, like when the time is right. So I think that if you don't have that feeling that like you can really manage this and it's not going to fuel you, like I feel like ours does, definitely hook up with an amazing nonprofit in your area. It could be collecting food. It could be with pets. I mean, there's just so many, like there's so much that you can do with the schools. I mean, there's just so much to do.
Sounds like the blueprint is first find something that you're like really have a heart for, passionate about, whether it's children, whether it's, pediatric oncology, whether it's feeding homeless people, whatever it is that you're truly passionate about. And that's step number one, right? To get clarity on that. Mm-hmm. And then it sounds like step number two is to either reach out to somebody like you if they really want to do it on their own, recognizing that there's more time and energy and effort involved in that. Mm-hmm. Or find, someone local, like that, an operational partner that you can just start to pour into. And then maybe you start to show up to their events. And that's like your kind of, because they'll probably invite you to events as you contribute.
Right.
And then you can get a glimpse of like, okay, what is this? And is this something that I want to go further with? And then in either one of those options, it's like making sure that you incorporate it in everything that you're doing.
So we have, printed bound magazines that we give to all new clients. And then we have bound books that we give once they're closed. I mean, and there's, full pages about our mission, which is of course, pediatric cancer research. So you definitely want to incorporate it into your listing presentation to buyers. They should know that as well. And when they close, they should be reminded that a portion of my commission is going to X, Y, or Z. And again, if you don't have that passion, like if you're like, oh, like I just haven't found my groove yet, like what I really am passionate about, then, allow your clients to pick that charity. You never know. You learn so much about people when you ask them what charity they want to donate to. I mean, there's so many wonderful ones, and maybe you'll find your passion through that,
Yeah. I just had an idea. It's like, if let's say your clients pick a charity, and then you keep in your database or in your CRM, and like when their birthday is, and you could just be like, hey, we donated $25 to your charity this month, or $50 to your charity this month that you did last time. That's like really cool. And it's also very personalized, right?
Absolutely. Very cool.
What I'm aware of too is that that world is of events and raising money. And I'm aware that there's also a blueprint for that. So if somebody who's kind of thinking to themselves like, hey, like maybe I do want to go down the foundation route, I know that has a whole separate, like attract, convert, deliver mechanism. Like we're attracting people to what we're doing, whether it's with entertainment, this or that. Then there's a conversion mechanism, which somebody's going to have to get on stage and talk and make the ask.
Yep.
And then there's a delivery mechanism, which is like under your seat. Here is the thing to fill out, like that whole thing. So like if somebody's interested in going down that route, I think it's important for them to understand like what they're getting into. So like,
Oh,
what would you suggest? Yeah. What would you suggest for someone who's
yeah.
like, yeah, I think I'm going to do a foundation?
Yeah. So I would find a local nonprofit. So I was actually shocked whenever you just kind of get online and start researching. Um, when you look online and you see how many nonprofits are going toward X, so going toward pediatric cancer research, and then you realize they're not doing any fundraising anymore, then you're kind of like, well, I wonder
Mm.
what happened. And I mean, I would just reach out to them and I would just say, hey, I saw that you have or had a nonprofit dedicated toward pet helpers. And I see that you're no longer doing that. Would you mind if we set up a quick 15-minute chat so I can just kind of pick your brain? I'm considering starting my own nonprofit for pet helpers or whatever it is, and really just get the, the nitty gritty, the dirty, that stuff that you probably don't hear about or really think about. And, find out really like, all right, this is a huge commitment. Like I have meetings just as much for real estate as I do for my nonprofit, especially come gala
Really?
planning time. So yeah.
A couple questions on that. One is, how much time do you think cumulatively over the course of a year that you spend on the foundation?
So we start planning essentially 6 months out from our gala, which would be a monthly meeting with our planning committee. And then once you get about 3 months out, you're meeting weekly with your committee. And you don't have funds to hire staff. So it's a lot of volunteers, a lot of your time. We're the ones there setting up for the gala. We're the ones cleaning up at the end of the night. So it's a lot of personal time for sure. And I have 2 young kids. Like I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, but my 7-year-old was there with us, like making the tables, she had her own way. She wanted the tables set. Like I am totally cool with all of that. Like it's just cool to involve them in that way too.
Oh yeah, because not only I think is it cool for them to see that you're doing like big things, and then they'll just grow up thinking like, oh, this is what we do in our family. Like we just do big things. But it's also cool for them to be a part of that particular process. And then I'm wondering, have you given any thought like long term of like how it will continue to be funded in your absence? Or is that not something that you even think about?
Oh my gosh. I literally have thought about it. It's so funny you say that. I imagine me being like a very, very old woman and like probably too like fragile to get up and actually give this speech, but there'll be like my kids will be there to do it for me. Like I've thought about this. It's so funny you asked that. So yes, I have thought about it. And I think my daughter will be like the main point of contact, but I feel like my son will definitely be involved, of course, as well.
Yeah, and then also I could see you. I just imagined you like standing up and being like,
I know, like having a cane. Yeah.
Yeah, and which is awesome. It'd be like it all started with Jen,
Exactly.
and it's also too like perhaps even like an endowment, like whether it be from you personally or from other things that would allow it to continue in some form or fashion, right? And that's something that like it's like estate planning and long term planning.
Yeah.
But if that's something that, I want to continue, that's what would need to happen in order for it to continue.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is awesome. And I really appreciate you taking the time to, share your experience. I'm so happy for you that not only is your son doing great, that Brody's awesome and cured, which is unbelievable, but also that you have found something that gives you like purpose, like a really strong sense of purpose and a really strong sense of meaning. And because you're doing it with such gusto, you're inspiring other people to do likewise, which I think is what it's all about. So if people want to connect with you, if they want to find you, if they want to, give you a referral so that way you can contribute more to your foundation, how would they go about doing so?
Sure. So our nonprofit is called the McConnell Foundation. You can go to themcconnellfoundation.com or at the McConnell Foundation on Instagram. And our brokerage website is chsestates.com.
Awesome. Well, again, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time. I really do. I've learned a bunch. Me and my wife have actually been thinking along the same lines. So this is both not only for others, but also for myself to gather some information. And I know I'll be able to reach out to you if I have any questions. And you strike me to be the type of person, if anybody reaches out to you, you'll help them. So I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to connecting soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.